And good evening, I'm Tracy Sinclair here at our digital desk for Decision 2024. We are just getting our first set of numbers coming in. You will also see a ticker down at the bottom of the screen. As I said, these numbers are just coming in, so you'll still see some races that have zeros. Those will continue to fill in as we talk. But we are going to talk about a couple different races. We are looking at, this is an important race for the Republican, the bipartisan majority down in the Senate. This is the race over in Eagle River. Kelly Merrick is a Republican incumbent. She was challenged during the primary by three other Republicans. The one who came out on top of those three was Jared Gerker. He is in second in this case. So just with about 21% of the vote, Kelly Merrick and Jared is winning by 2,000 votes to about 1,484 for Jared Gerker. Also, of course, the big race that everybody is talking about is the race for the U.S. House. And so we've got our team coverage around the South Central area, and that is Beth Verge and Steve Kirch, all down in the at the two polls. So Beth, let's talk to you first. You are down with the Begich campaign. What are you seeing? They've got the first results in. What has been the reaction so far? Mr. Begich is just a little bit above Ms. Peltola.
Yeah, Tracy, we're in downtown Anchorage at the downtown Marriott here in town. Lots of people behind me, as you can see. This room filled up very quickly, and we know Nick Begich has been here for a bit now, but our understanding is that he's taking just a few minutes now that this first round of results has been released to kind of take it in, really, and then is expected to come and speak here soon. Every so often you'll hear people clapping, and part of that was for that first round of results here in Alaska, but also, of course, the presidential contest that people have been watching so closely tonight. Lots going on, lots for people to follow. Again, we do expect Nick to arrive in this particular room any minute. We know he's been here for a little bit. We're expecting to catch up with him very soon. But yes, a very, very close race, certainly. One that is key for Alaska. Nick has run for office previously. Of course, many will remember his run in 22, not only in that special election to fill the remainder of Don Young's term, but also that next election to take the full following term. So we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Alaska's news source caught up with him yesterday when he was voting. He said he felt good about his campaign. He was very excited to know that a lot of people were getting out to vote early, and today as well, his campaign and others who support him were out sign waving right at 7 in the morning before the sun was up, and it's just a very exciting moment for a lot of people here right now. Again, a lot of that cheering happening not only when that first drop came down showing Nick in the lead, but also what's been happening with the presidential race. So people have been watching these screens very closely, and we've been hearing those intermittent claps, which I suspect we'll be hearing more of very shortly as we accept them momentarily.
Thank you so much. Down at the Nick Begich campaign. And we do also have Steve Kirch. He is down with the Peltola campaign, which I will continue to see if Steve is checking in. And Steve, give me a thumbs up if you can see me. I'm also going to put up those results. Okay, Steve can't hear us. Steve, you are down with Representative Peltola with that campaign at the watch party. What has been the reaction so far?
Yeah, so Representative Peltola was just here. She gave a speech, in front of the people who are gathered behind me here, and she really gave a speech of optimism. She said even though she's down in these early results, it's still early. She kind of made a joke that the final results probably won't be in until 3 days before Thanksgiving. So she was very optimistic, and that's the attitude she gave here. And some of the supporters who I talked to here of hers, they said they're also very optimistic. This is still early. There's a long ways to go before these results are final. So the mood in this room right now is optimism, and they're not discouraged by these early results at all.
26% of the votes in right now, and Representative Peltola has 44% of the votes, with Republican Nick Begich at 49% of the total. What do we expect for the rest of the night down there, Steve?
Yeah, so Mattel, Representative Peltola, she went upstairs to go meet with some other supporters who are here tonight, who are having a VIP gathering, dinner and stuff. So she's upstairs right now, and right now everybody else looks like they're still waiting to see what further results come in. I know some people are really glued on to other statewide races as well as a presidential race. But, again, people do not seem to be discouraged or angry at all. They're very happy Representative Peltola came, gave a speech. She did portray optimism. There's still a long ways to go. So right now the mood here is very good.
Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us down there, and we'll let you go and see if you can just continue to gather what's going on down at the Mary Peltola Campaign Watch Party. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the other races that we have been kind of monitoring. You can see those numbers on our ticker are starting to come in, and so we'll start to see just a little bit of those responses. We started off some of those what might still be zeros when they come up because they do have 50 races that have to be filled in. But looking at State House District 10, Charles Kopp right now is beating incumbent Craig Johnson 61% to 37%. That is a race that we're watching. Craig Johnson is the rules chair in the House, and Charles Kopp, there was a bill that came out of the Senate about defined benefits. Charles Kopp wanted to see that go forward in the House, and it never made it out of the Rules Committee. And so he decided to run. That was one of his main issues in that race. Lucy Bauer versus Kai Holland. She is leading by just a few votes at this point, less than 50 votes for this point, with 25.7% of the vote. Lucy's considered a fairly conservative Republican. Kai Holland is nonpartisan, but he is being supported by the Democratic Party. And then no notes, as I said, we're still going to run into these occasional races that don't have any votes being put in. Taking a look at State House District 1, Republican Jeremy Bynum is in the lead at this point. Almost twice is more than twice of the person right behind him, Grant Echohart. So it looks like, at least with 47% of the vote, Jeremy at this point is in the lead. Mia Costello, a Republican, jumping back into the race, and she's ahead at 53% right now, 41% of the vote coming through for her race. Dustin Darden at 2%, and Denny Wells, the Democrat leading in this race, is at 43%. Really again, running into one of those that has no totals in yet. These are just some of the races that are being filled in as we receive votes. But Maxine Debert, she is the Democrat and an incumbent. She is in the lead at this point, for 39.3% of the vote. She's got just 53% compared to Bart LeBon. He is checking in at 46%. And then this is an interesting race as well. We've got two Republicans, a Democrat and a Libertarian. In many of the races, if there was more from one party, more than one person made it into the final, this person in the lower position dropped out. That didn't happen in this case. So we do have two Republicans in the lead position. This could be something that we end up focusing on when we look at ranked choice voting again. That won't happen until November 20th. This is also Sarah Vance. She is an incumbent Republican. There was some talk that her position, her seat might be a little bit vulnerable. Now only 33% of the vote is in, but she is currently leading at 48%. And again, in some of these cases, we're looking at Republicans taking other Republicans and or trying to unseat other Republicans. And in many cases, it was because they didn't approve of some of their votes. They didn't approve of how they were voting, either with the bipartisan majority or with the majority. Those just depends. They thought, in many cases, they thought they weren't conservative enough. So Bill Elam, he is the Republican, and he is also, John Hillier, also a Republican, challenging him 53% to 45%. Checking out Senate District D, this is Jesse Bjorkman. He is a Republican incumbent, also being challenged by another Republican, Ben Carpenter, at 41%. Jesse has 48%, and then the lone Democrat in the race has 9% coming in. That is Tina Wegner. We're also keeping watch to see what is going down at the various different events. If any of the candidates begin to speak, I will try and jump in to take those live. Right now, though, Seat F, District F in the Senate, Jesse Kaufman, a Republican incumbent, being challenged by a Democrat and another Republican. And again, this is one of those races where the second Republican did not drop out. They're challenging for that seat. Still, the incumbent is leading handily at 49%. District N showing up to be a little more interesting. David Wilson, the Republican incumbent, only with less than half of the percentage that we see from Robert Yunt. Again, very few votes in at this point, only about 14.2%. These are very early results coming through, so this one definitely could change. And then Senate District P, Scott Kowalski, Democrat incumbent, still ahead of Leslie Hadjukovich, but still that's a pretty close margin there with 39% of the vote coming through. District R, no results coming through. And let's take a quick look at those current results. Again, 26.1% of the vote coming in so far. And at this point, Republican Nick Begich is leading to incumbent Mary Peltola, Democrat. He's got 49% compared to her 44%. Ranked choice voting means that we might not have a decision on this until November 20th when they do the tabulations. And let's take a look at those ballot measures. These were quite contentious. It looks like the ballot measure 1, which was about increasing the minimum wage and requiring sick leave, paid sick leave to be done by employers. This is winning at this point. This is passing at 56% compared to 43%. Now, the other ballot measure was quite contentious, and this has recently just switched, going from no leading to yes leading. But look at how close those numbers are. Very, very close. 25% of the vote coming in so far. So really, we're not exactly sure. That one is going to be pretty difficult. Well, it isn't Nick Begich, but it is Senator Dan Sullivan down at the Nick Begich event. So let's jump down and listen in. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we will be able to hear much. There's a lot of noise in the room down at the Begich campaign. That's how those watch parties are. Not a lot of, there's so much ambient noise that it's very difficult to hear unless you are right up on somebody. So it doesn't sound like we will get a chance to listen in with Senator Sullivan down at the Nick Begich party. We've got a lot going on across the state, checking in. Just looking to see some of the Facebook comments. What website shows the data? If you go to alaskasnewssource.com, we will have the data there. And of course, you can see the ticker down at the bottom, but alaskasnewssource.com has those numbers as they continue to come in. So you should be able to see those there. We'll continue to update them here on Alaska's News Source on our digital desk as well. Jumping in back into our elections area, and we'll talk about a couple of these races that we've been focused on and pretty intent on watching. This one, very interesting. Kelly Merrick was the Republican incumbent. Jared Gerker is a Republican challenging her, along with two others during the primary. Both of those other two dropped out. Lee Hammermeister is the lone Democrat in the race. This was a situation where the other Republicans in this race did not think that Kelly Merrick was conservative leaning enough. She tended to vote with the bipartisan majority, and Jared Gerker said that he would not do that if he were elected. At this point, with 33% of the vote in, it looks like Kelly Merrick is staying in her position, but again, only about 33% of the vote. 32% of the vote in with Charles Kopp versus Craig Johnson, both Republicans, so we're not going to see a party shift in this seat, but we could see an ideological change for this seat. Craig Johnson, the incumbent, currently seeing 37%, Charles Kopp at 61%. Lucy Bauer, also a Republican. This is a very close race between these two. Kai Holland is a nonpartisan, but he is being supported and promoted by the Democratic Party. Lucy Bauer is a Republican and considered on the conservative side. Now, we didn't have numbers the last time that we went through this. Julie Colomb, the Republican incumbent, she is leading against Walter Featherly. Again, he is nonpartisan, and at 53% compared to 46%, which is where Featherly is at right now. Write-ins just at 6, so we're not really tracking those. And starting to see numbers in some of these others. Jeremy Bynum at 53%. The next person next in line is Grant Echohark at 24% and Agnes Moran at 22%. This is almost 50% of the vote coming in. Checking in with House District 15, Mia Costello's race. She is rejoining the fray, 53% versus 43% with the Democratic challenger, Denny Wells, and another Democrat, Dustin Darden, at 2%. Still looking at some of these races that are not getting, we don't quite have all those numbers in. That's the Cliff Grove race. We'll continue to watch that. This is a race that we didn't have numbers for just a few seconds ago. Ted Eichscheid, I believe, is leading Stanley Wright, who is the incumbent in the state house. This is one that we've been watching, that it could actually be a party shift. Ted Eichscheid is winning at this point with only 28.9% of the vote. So again, very early results at 52% compared to 46. Looking at House District 28, Alexi Moore, all three Republicans in this race, and you can see that's pretty even across the board. Only 11.9% of the vote is in, but there's not a huge change between first and third in this case. Alexi Moore at 38%, Steve Menard at 32%, and Jessica Wright at 27%. Really pretty even totals between the three Republicans in that seat, for that seat. House District 31, Maxine Diebert, she is a Democrat, the incumbent, and she is winning at this point against Bart LeBon. We're looking at 39.3%. We got numbers here. We didn't have them the last time we came through, but this is two Republicans, a Democrat, and a Libertarian, all vying for House District 36, 32.7% of the vote coming in. Rebecca Schwenke at 45%, leading Pamela Goody, also a Republican, at 37%, and then the Democrat Brandon Kowalski checking in at 12% of the vote. Sarah Vance, we'll be continuing to watch this race. She is leading as the incumbent and Republican. She was seen as her seat being slightly vulnerable, but at this point, 33% of the vote in. She continues to lead. We'll keep watch on that. Justin Ruffridge is the Republican incumbent, 59%. His Republican challenger, Ronald Gillum, at 39% showing up. And looking at this race, State House District 8, didn't have numbers on this one the last time we came through. Again, two Republicans challenging for the same seat, no incumbent in this race. 53% for Bill Elam and John Hillier at 45%. District D, Jesse Bjorkman, he is the Republican incumbent. Ben Carpenter, also a Republican, about 7 percentage points down, about 500 votes is the difference between those two at 36.9%, and the lone Democrat in the race, Tina Wegner, at 691 votes and 9%. District F, James Kaufman, Janice Park is the lone Democrat. James Kaufman is the Republican incumbent at 49%, and he has 3,086 votes. Janice Park, not that far behind, 33% of the vote in, and she's at 41%. Harold Borbridge, who is the other Republican challenging for that seat, is at 9%. We'll just go through a few final more, and then we'll let you go. Robert Yount, the Republican, is beating the Republican incumbent, Dave Wilson, 14% in. So really early, particularly in this race, but he is at 55% compared to 26% for David Wilson, and another Republican, Stephen Wright, at 17%. Scott Kowalski, Democrat incumbent, at this point, still holding on to his seat with 39% of the vote in. Leslie Hadjukovich is at 46%, and she is the Republican challenger in there. Mike Cronk, again, didn't have numbers the last time we went through. Mike Cronk is the Republican leading this race. Savannah Fletcher is the likely strongest challenger for him at 43% of the vote, though he does have 50%. 43% in, he has 56% of the vote. Savannah Fletcher seen as a little more liberal compared to Mike Cronk. Now, this was a seat that does not have an incumbent. Taking a look at those numbers, have not seen that number change in this few minutes that we have been on. 26.1% of the vote coming in, so have not seen that change. We are still seeing that Republican Nick Begich is leading. The ballot measure 1, to almost 25% of the vote in. That is winning at this point, 56% to 43. And this is going to continue to be a very close one. Ranked choice voting, whether to repeal it or not, 25% of the vote in, and they are very, very close in those. We've got still a long way to go on those different, on that race in particular. We will keep watch on that. We're going to I'm going to leave this on, and we'll keep our ticker going so you can continue to see the different races as they continue to fill in and those numbers continue to update. We're also getting ready for our late local news at 10 o'clock. You'll want to be there. We will go back and be able to hopefully talk and hear from both of the candidates for the U.S. House race. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll continue to leave this up just so we can kind of keep monitoring that ticker and getting continued updates to those numbers.